Hey everyone, Rogue Reader here. I just wanted to do a quick video, a little different than the other ones I typically do. I've been behind on a couple Star Wars books. I'm behind on, when it comes to the newer ones, about 5 or 6 of them maybe, and I've been slowly working my way on catching up. And I thought it might be fun just to do quick first read impression reviews once I complete them. So this would be just major spoiler free. I'm looking at just the basics here, the basic setup and the plot, what I thought about it, what I liked and what I didn't like, etc. And to start out, I did want to start with the last one I did just read was Mace Windu and the Glass Abyss, and written by Stephen Barnes. You can see it right here. So I did just finish this one recently, and so the setup for this book is that it takes place in between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. It actually takes place shortly after The Phantom Menace, and it follows Mace Windu when he gets a message from Qui-Gon after Qui-Gon's... This is like a message to be delivered to him after he dies, and basically asking Mace Windu to go to this planet, Metagos, or Metagos, I'm going to call it Metagos, and help the people there because Qui-Gon had gone on a mission there years ago, and they basically saved his life, the native inhabitants there, and he promised to help them if they ever needed it. So because apparently they requested help from Qui-Gon during the events of the Phantom Menace, he wasn't able to go, but he did record a message in case he passed away, to Mace Windu, who was the only one he would trust to complete this if something were to happen to him. And so the book has Mace Windu go to this planet. He meets with the natives called the Saad or Saeed. I'm not sure how to correctly pronounce that. And he finds this planet that is the surface has been completely like glassed over due to like a supernova or a solar flare. And because of that solar flare, everything on the surface was wiped out. It's all kind of glass, and all this inhabitants of the planet, they live below in the kind of underworld regions. If you think like Coruscant, like 1313 and those different levels they kind of have their own system of that there, where there's different levels that people live on. And there's two main crime families that are kind of warring with each other for control of this planet. So what Mace is here to do is basically he goes to infiltrate both of these two major crime families, and he's trying to figure out a way to get them to work against each other and eventually find a way to defeat them from within and get this planet saved for the rightful natives. That's the general gist of what this plot is. Now, I have to kind of go with my gripes with this book right away because it's going to kind of color everything that happens after it. So I really did not vibe with this author, Stephen Barnes. I didn't really vibe with his writing style here. So I found it a struggle at times to read this one. And it's kind of hard. I was finding it really difficult to explain why that was. So I think the best way I can explain it is that it feels a little like he over-explains things. So he'll take a couple of paragraphs to explain something with colorful language that I think could have been condensed down into maybe one paragraph. Several sentences kind of repeating the basic gist of things that I think, again, could have just been condensed down. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I just don't vibe with that type of written material, but it made it hard for me to kind of understand what was actually... Not understand what was happening, but I had to really think about it after I would read it to kind of fully grasp. It would take me out of the experience of just picturing it in my head, and I would have to kind of think on it a little bit more before I understood what was going on. On top of that, too, I found the dialogue a little off between characters. So when characters would speak to each other, just something about it just didn't feel quite natural. There was always just something a little bit off about the dialogue, and that also just kind of... That and the way he writes just added to this air that made the book hard for me to read personally. And unfortunately, that just meant I had a tough time, and it kind of colored everything else about this book. The plot is it's a good setup. It's Mace Windu, infiltrating these crime organizations, hiding that he's a Jedi, and he goes by the name Solver because he's a problem solver, which I like. And he's pretending to help these families, but also secretly learn how to get them to work against each other, all so he can help these people. There's this kind of there's all these different inhabitants, and they all have mysteries and ways in which they work with each other in the planet. That's all. It's a good setup, and it's all very interesting. It's just, unfortunately, for me, it just becomes too hard to get into with the way that it's written. For the characters, Mace is done. He's done well. I think you get out of him what you expect. This is still Samuel L. Jackson, so he's still the tough, mother, like Jedi version here, and he's gonna be good in fights. He's gonna take that tough approach, but you're also gonna see other sides of him too, and how the passages where he thinks about things, and when he has a couple of dreams in the book, things like that, you get to see a little bit of another side of him, and that's always interesting because I think Mace kind of comes across as a one-dimensional character in the films, so to see any other side of him, it is good and it is fun to see. When it comes to the other characters, though, I didn't really find myself enjoying or liking the other characters, not being attached to them really. I didn't dislike them, but I didn't find myself attached to them. There's one exception, and I'll get to that shortly, but for the most part, they're all unique. There's some really unique aliens in this book, and their relationships. And when it comes to like the main like native like priestess, I don't even remember what her like kind of position is, and her relationship with Mace. And then there's like these other natives, and this like bartender, and these holographic droids. Kind of reminds me of Proxy from The Force Unleashed, if you've played that. So there's some interesting characters here. It's just the dialogue just makes it so that I don't find them really interesting when things are happening with them. The one exception is the villain. The villain in this book is very good. His name is Chulok, and I should say they, because they're two different people that are combined. So that's Chew and Locke. And Chew is this alien species that can choose to merge with another creature, and so he merges with a Rodian. The Rodian is Locke, and they have this like tube connecting them together, and that means that they share like thoughts, and when they speak as one, so the two heads will be talking at the same time, and when they fight, they can coordinate the fact that two bodies are fighting at the same time. Chulok is a very interesting villain. I enjoyed everything about them. That was really cool. And they're huge, and they're tough, and they know how to fight, and even Mace has to admit that they might be a worthy opponent for him. And again, they're very unique. It's an interesting villain. I also, just something that randomly stuck out to me, Chulok, one of my favorite TV series is Stargate. I like all the Stargates, SG-1, Atlantis universe. But one of the planets from the main character, his home planet is Chulok. So when I read that, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. And then I looked at the author's biography, and he wrote some early episodes of Stargate. So I just wonder if that was something that was kind of a name he always liked and was in the back of his head, or if that's just a coincidence. But just something I wanted to point out. Just another gripe I have a bit with the book, and this might all be my fault for assuming, but there's no mention of Mace's Shatterpoint ability in this book. Like that. Now, if you don't know what Shatterpoint is, there is a book, the Star Wars Legends novel, Star Wars Shatterpoint. It's another Mace Windu novel written by Matthew Stover. This one, Matthew Stover's Shatterpoint. This is a great Mace Windu book. I actually enjoyed this novel quite a bit. But the premise of what Shatterpoint is it's kind of a unique trait that Mace Windu has. So he has this force ability. It's called Shatterpoint. It allows him to see the things that he allows him to see that one point in something that if you press it, everything else kind of just falls apart. So that can be in objects, and it can be in people and situations. So he can find like that one thing in an object and just touch it, and that'll make the whole thing fall apart. Or he can see how someone is kind of the crux of a whole situation. Like in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, Mace Windu was able to see that Anakin was a shatter point for the galaxy. He just couldn't see where those shatters were going to go. So it's kind of a unique thing that he has, and the character is known in Legends. The character was known for this. If you've seen the Star Wars Micro Clone Wars series, there's a famous part where Mace Windu is just taking out droids with his fists, battle droids, and he's just like smashing them, and he'll just touch them and they'll just fall apart, like into just all their screws and things will just come out and they'll just completely fall apart, like kind of showing his Shatterpoint ability. Now, again, maybe it's my fault, but I assume that I typically try to avoid looking at what a book is about, a Star Wars book, before it comes out, unless I just see a general announcement. I like to be surprised But just hearing the title Glass Abyss, it's glass, so it made me think, oh, Shatterpoint's going to be a part of this. It makes sense, it's a part of the character, but it's not. There's only one scene in this book where Mace takes something in his hands and he kind of shatters it. It's not even mentioned by name, Shatterpoint. I know that's Legends, I know it's not canon anymore, but still, the title just kind of threw me off. It made me think there's going to be something to do with his Shatterpoint ability in here, and it just didn't happen. I mean, I don't know. Is that my fault? Should I not have assumed that? I mean, look at the back of the book is literally glass shattering. So I don't know. Maybe that's just my fault. Maybe I shouldn't have expected that. But that was my other kind of gripe. I was kind of waiting for that to come up. It's not like it's completely, there's no references in here. They do mention Vapid a couple of times, Mace Windu's fighting style that he created that's a little bit more aggressive. That was cool. I think they even mentioned that he made it with Sora Bulk, which is like that dark Jedi in the old Dark Horse Clone Wars comics. That was Legends. I don't know if he's been mentioned before. And if this is his first canon appearance or not. It's not even an appearance. He just mentions him by name. But there are references, so I did want to just bring it up. It's not like they were against references in this book. It's just, Shatterpoint's not a part of it. It's called Glass Abyss because that's kind of the nickname of the planet, because it's been hit by the sun and everything on the surface was turned to glass. There are a couple other good points about this book. There are some battles in the end that are very fun to read. Once some of these battles start going, that was cool to see. The chapters are short, which is something I really like in a novel. It makes me feel like I'm reading it faster when the chapters are shorter. It gives me more stopping points, so I can pick it up and put it down much more throughout the day. I just personally like shorter chapters in novels. And the characterization, I think, of Mace is good. If you're a fan of his character, I don't think you'll be disappointed in anything about his character here. But again, I don't want to say the writing is bad. It's just I just don't vibe with this author's writing style, and that unfortunately made the book very just hard for me to read. Maybe that's just me. Maybe you won't have the same thing, but I'm going to recommend, I think the paperback of this comes out in July, so about next month or so, I think is what I last saw. If you're still interested in this novel, I would recommend wait for the paperback. Don't spend the extra money on the hardcover. And yeah, that'll be it. This is my first reading impression of Mace Windu and the Glass Abyss. Let me know what you think. Was I totally off? If you've read it, did you enjoy this novel? Do you find you had the same problems? Is this just a me thing where I just don't get how the writing style just doesn't work with me? And was I overreacting to the whole Shatterpoint thing? I don't know. Let me know what you thought. This has been Rogue Reader, and I'll follow up with more of these as I start catching up on more Star Wars books. Thank you very much, and may the Force be with you.